Hello and welcome. Join me as we travel into the city for a spring Little Free Library tour. Spring is one of my favorite times to head into the city. The mornings are still cool and the flower blooms paint the city in the colors of nature. I'll give you my thoughts on what we find in these little library boxes, and be sure to stick around to the end to see the 10 books I grabbed. And as always, you'll see what I unhaul in trade. There are so many reasons why I love Little Free Libraries. First of all, it makes reading and getting books accessible to anyone. Secondly, I love the hunt. I love the treasure scavenger hunt feeling of searching for books and seeing books that I've never seen before and getting curious about whether that's a book that I would enjoy. And in that vein, I love coming across books and being interested in them enough to bring them home that I would not typically seek out. Maybe not even in a used bookstore. It's ones that I might just pass over. But there's this thought that if it's free, what is the harm in giving that book a chance? And it could potentially be your next favorite book. So in this Little Free Library, I took one book and I left Truly Devious by Maureen Daly. It's a YA mystery novel that was a DNF for me. Another reason why I love going into the city in the spring is we have this phenomenal bakery that I think rivals bigger metropolis city bakeries. I love looking at the beautiful wares. One thing to note, you never know when you go to a Little Free Library what you're going to find. This particular location had quite a few modern authors, and there actually were also hardcovers with dust jackets, which I'm always on the lookout for. They even had The Wedding People, which was actually a DNF for me. I didn't get very far into it before I decided it was not for me. But this was a large print version, which again, I also love as far as accessibility. I found this B.K. Borison Good Spirits Book of the Month hardcover with a nice dust jacket. I actually saw B.K. Borison at a Barnes & Noble opening that I went to over the summer, and I was so tempted by that book. The books that I decided to leave were The Language of the Flowers and The Suitors. And then I actually saw this book, and so I decided to leave another one, which was The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. You would think going to Little Free Libraries in the city that they would be close and I'd be able to walk, but I actually did need to drive to quite a few of them, not only for the books to trade, but they also weren't super close. This Little Free Library had a Nora Roberts, the first book in the series. This one is Dark Witch. I've actually recommended this series. There is open door romance, as is the case in most Nora Roberts, but that is a book that I do enjoy. I am also always excited when I find an L.M. Montgomery or even a Louisa May Alcott book in a Little Free Library. It just feels like such a win and a good omen of a good searching day. I also found The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, which I already have at home, so I left that one. And then I left this Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson paperback version, simply because I have the British publication already at home. So, as I mentioned, I'm driving in between a lot of these Little Free Libraries, and I took the time to look up Good Spirits, and it was as I imagined. This actually has a lot more spice than what I am comfortable with. So despite my intrigue with the paranormal romance and the beautiful cover, I left that in the next Little Free Library that I went to. This Little Free Library is an example of one that really needs a good clean out. And I thought long and hard about being the one to do that. We have this Play-Doh book that's held together with a rubber band. Again, I think Play-Doh is fantastic, but is somebody going to get a rubber banded together book that doesn't have binding that works? Probably not. This Little Free Library also was double stacked, so behind the books that you see here in the front row, there were a whole other set of books that you just could not get to. Some of them were water damaged. I again, really thought about cleaning this out, but I thought this isn't my responsibility. I don't want to step on toes, and so I left it as it was. But for the books that I took, I decided not to leave any more in there because, again, I think it needed a good clean out. And I thought, well, I will just hold on to the books that I would have left in there and maybe find a little free library that needed more books than this one did. And that was the case in the next little free library that I went to. This one was actually quite empty. So we have this Robin Gunn. I'm always tempted because I see Robin Gunn a lot in little free libraries to kind of go back to see what I think of those, but I never actually commit to it. This little free library was near a children's playground, and there were actually quite a few adult books in there. I thought that for my trades in this little free library that I would go ahead and leave some of my middle grade books that I have been driving around with. So first of all, I did leave an Ellie Griffiths adult mystery, only because I have another copy at home. But then I left the Witch at Blackbird Pond and Across 5 Aprils, which are two of our favorite historical fictions. I also left this Bound for Oregon, which is a middle grade historical fiction, and I left this Rick Riordan Viking fantasy novel. I just love that cover. I think it's so beautiful. And I left Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. I have Sharon Creech books that I like better than Walk Two Moons, so I left those there. All right, here we are with my haul. I've got my Nancy Drew bag filled with my little free library treasures. So we are going to start with what I consider to be a coup d'etat, and that is The Tangled Web, A Tangled Web by L.M. Montgomery. I was ecstatic to find this little Bantam mass market paperback. I don't know a lot about it, so I'm going to just quickly read on the back of this. So it says, The Legacy of the Brown Jug. Over the years, no fewer than 60 Darks and 60 Penhallows have married one another, but not without their share of fighting and feuding. Now, Aunt Becky, the eccentric old matriarch of the extended clan, has bequeathed her most prized heirloom, a legendary brown jug. But not until 1 year hence will the legacy of the jug finally be settled. In the year to come, much will happen to the Darks and the Penhallows. There is the beautiful gay Penhallow who cares only for love, but whose betrothal to the handsome Noel Gibson is broken off when he leaves her for the sly and seductive Nan. The reckless Peter Penhallow and the lovely Donna, who have hated each other since childhood, but whom the jug brings inexplicably together. The story of Hugh and Jocelyn Dark, mysteriously separated on their wedding night 10 years ago, their terrible secret never revealed. And, of course, the unforgettable Moon Man, who possesses the mysterious gift of second sight. On one and all, the jug works its devilish magic until the night when both the Darks and the Penhallows gather to hear the final legacy of the brown jug and learn it holds a secret value greater than any they could have guessed. So excited about this. I love the cover, the girl in the dress. So ecstatic. This is like the find of the century. I am definitely moving this to the top of my TBR. I cannot wait to dive into this. The next one I will talk about is The Mystery of the Clockwork Sparrow. This is by Catherine Woodfine. So I found the second book in this series years ago, and my oldest read it and enjoyed it, but I'd never read it, and I can't remember, we might have passed it on. But when I found this, which is the first book in the series, I thought, okay, maybe I could read this either for middle grade March or maybe just being in the mood for mysteries. You know, I've been really kind of into these like juvenile girl sleuths, and this, I think, is a good fit in that, even though it's more modern, obviously. I don't know that much about this. It says that there is an invitation to the grand opening of Sinclair's department store, and there's dastardly criminals in London enacting their wicked plans. We've got bold heroines, Miss Sophie Taylor and Miss Lillian Rose. And I do love the end pages of these oval portraits, just very in the era. And then there's the Clockwork Sparrow. So I don't know if this is like the automatons or what, but I do love the silhouettes in the window. And then back here, we've got the silhouette of the murder. I think there's actually a murder mystery in this. I think Catherine Woodfine is a British author, but this is actually a Kane Miller version, which is a US version. So I'm excited about this little middle grade mystery that I found. All right, next I found The Maid's Secret. This is by Nita Prose. I think it's the sequel to The Maid, which I read with a friend of mine. So I figured rather than trying to find it at the library when I'm in the mood, if it's not going to be a buddy read with her, then I'll just have this in my TBR pile and can pick it up whenever the mood strikes. So again, I say this a lot, but when I can find a hardcover in good condition with the dust jacket of a book that, I know the author and is, part of maybe a series that I want to read, then I'm so happy when I can find it for free in a little free library. Next, I found a Dorothy Gilman. So I am reading through the Mrs. Polifax series. I just got more of them new from the independent bookstore crawl that I did a couple weeks ago. I have a couple Dorothy Gilmans that are not in that Mrs. Polifax series, but I have not yet read them. So when I saw this, which is one that I don't have, I went ahead and just grabbed it. This is the Tightrope Walker. All right, so rather than trying to summarize this, because I just found a little free library, I'm going to read you the back. They're going to kill me soon. When the quiet and shy Amelia Jones reads these words, her life changes irrevocably. She's just become the new owner of the Ebb Tide Shop, a musty antique store filled with merry-go-round horses and hurdy-gurdies. And it is while fixing one of these barrel organs that the scrawled and threatening note falls out. Armed only with the strange woman's first name and the note written years before, Amelia begins a journey into the past where nothing is the way it seems, where fear is second nature, and where dark secrets just might uncover murder. Her own. So, I really need to try the Dorothy Gilman mysteries outside of Mrs. Polifax. I just don't know when I'm going to have time, but this way I'll just have it on my stack ready to go. Next, this was just a grab simply because, number one, it's an ARC. I love when people put ARCs in little free libraries because they're really not meant to be sold. I've also read a book by both of these authors. So this is 3 Words for Goodbye, and this is Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. So I read The Last Christmas in Paris for Epistolary January and enjoyed it, and figured that I would just continue reading their historical fictions. This one is actually set in 1937. In this, we've got 2 sisters. It says on the front, 2 sisters, a journey that will change everything. So we have Clara and Madeline Summers. Their grandmother has a dying wish, and that is to travel to Europe. And this journey had been inspired by famed reporter Nellie Bly. So the problem is, while we are exploring the Orient Express, the Queen Mary, love that, sites in Paris and Venice, they're also on the Hindenburg. Yikes. They were also doing this all in the backdrop of Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Nazi Germany. And so lots of external forces, I have a feeling that is kind of impacting their ability to enjoy themselves and to travel. So the copy is really not in the best condition. It's like faded on the back and all folded. But again, I love that it's an ARC, and it certainly is one that I can read and then pass on myself. Another book that is set in that same era is Beryl Markham's West with the Night. This is one that I have been interested in reading. I feel ignorant, but again, I'm doing this just after grabbing it, and I haven't done any research. But Beryl Markham, what I know of her is that she's obviously a pilot and that she has a relationship with Africa. So I think she was a pilot flying around Africa, and then this is her memoir. autobiography of those events in her life. So the back is actually blurbed by Ernest Hemingway, and he wrote in a letter, "Did you read Beryl Markham's book, West with the Night? I knew her fairly well in Africa and never would have suspected that she could and would put pen to paper except to write in her flyer's logbook. As it is, she has written so well, and marvelously well, that I was completely ashamed of myself as a writer. I felt that I was simply a carpenter with words, picking up whatever was furnished on the job and nailing them together, and sometimes making an okay pig pen. But Beryl Markham can write rings around all of us who consider ourselves writers. The only parts of it that I know about personally, on account of having been there at the time and heard the other people's stories, are absolutely true. I wish you would get it and read it, because it really is a bloody wonderful book." So, Ernest Hemingway blurbed it. The person that left it in the Little Free Library might not have gotten very far, but they did leave this beautiful Hawthorne House bookmark from Ontario in there. I will definitely be using that bookmark. It's lovely. Beryl Markham, again, something I've been wanting to read. So glad to find it. And then I grabbed this one. This is written by Helen Simonson, who wrote Major Pettigrew's Last Stand, which I have recommended here on my channel. So I was like, oh, this looks like such a lovely cover. So this is the Hazelbourne Ladies Motorcycle and Flying Club. And on the back, one of the newspapers has blurbed it as, "If Austen had lived a century later than she did, then this book feels very much like a book she would have written." So this is set in 1919, so we're dealing with post-World War I trauma, and our character, Constance Haverhill, is having to give up her cottage and the job she held during World War I because the men have returned from the war, and she is sent as a lady's companion to an old friend who is convalescing at a seaside hotel. And she falls in there with a group of strong-willed women who run a local motorcycle club, refreshing as a summer breeze and as bracing as the British seaside. So this I can add to the top and hopefully pick this up for the summer. It looks like a delight. It really does. This is a book that I would not normally have sought out, and that's why I love Little Free Libraries, because I know I love this author, and this topic sounds fascinating, and I just kind of want to just pick this up now. Let's see if I can feel down in here in the bag. Oh, I need to move faster. I have 3 more books. So I grabbed this Ellen Hildebrand, Beautiful Day. The main reason why I got it is because it is a signed copy, which is fantastic. So if you don't know, Ellen Hildebrand is known for writing mostly Nantucket-centric stories. There is usually a lot of family drama. There can also be romance. She also there's one that's called, I think, The Hotel Nantucket, that I love and actually have on my shelf. And that one has a little bit of paranormal activities in it. So I love that creativity. So this is a story, it looks like, about a family, actually 2 families, the Carmichaels and the Grahams, who have gotten together in Nantucket for a wedding. The bride's late mother has left behind a notebook of instructions for all of these nuptials that everyone's supposed to follow. And it sounds like while the bride and groom are coming together and everyone's there for the weekend, it sounds like everything else in these 2 families is falling apart. So, oh, we got another bookmark. This one's beautiful. Left in here as well, but this made it to the end of the book, so that's a good sign. So I love that I have 2 new bookmarks here. All right, let's see if I can find room up here on the dash safely for the books. All right, let's see what next. This one is The Salt Path by Rainer Wynn. So I picked this up simply because of the cover. We've got the lighthouse, the cliff, the dolphins, the swallows that I guess are like cliff-dwelling birds. So this is a true story, and so it's a memoir of a couple who lost everything and embarked on a transformative journey walking the southwest coast path in England. So apparently a woman, Rainer Wynn, discovers that her husband has a terminal illness. He's only 32. Ooh, that's really kind of terrible. And And it says that they discover that, and then their house and farm are taken away. With nothing left and little time, they make the brave and impulsive decision to walk 630 miles of the sea-swept southwest coast path from Somerset to Dorset, through Devon and Cornwall. It also says that it's unflinchingly honest. So this also, oh, there's the couple there. Let me just check for bookmarks. No bookmarks. Here's the map. I think I'm going to love this too. It has the potential to be heartbreaking, but let's see if I read it in the summer. Does it tell me when this is going to start? Oh, these poor people, they're going through so much trauma. Okay, it doesn't say what time period it is. So anyway, fascinating read. Again, not one that I typically would have sought out, so I love that it found me. And then last, we have another ARC. This one is 10 years old, and it is Black Rabbit Hall by Eve Chase. I picked this out because of the cover. Also, I really liked the sun stripes on the edges. I just think that gives it character. So, here's what the back says. Ghosts are everywhere, not just the ghosts of Mama in the woods, but ghosts of us too. What we used to be like in those long summers. Amber Alton knows that the hours pass differently at Black Rabbit Hill, her London family's country estate where no two clocks read the same. Summers there are perfect, timeless, not much ever happens, until, of course, it does. So I think this is like a multi-timeline story, because then it talks about 3 decades later, Lorna she's determined to be married within the grand ivy-covered walls of Pencrawl Hall, known as Black Rabbit Hall. But as she's drawn deeper into these overgrown grounds, the memories of her mother begin to surface, and she finds herself ensnared within the manor's labyrinthine history, overcome with an insatiable need for answers about her own past. Stunning and atmospheric. This is a debut novel. So there you go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books from the Little Free Libraries. And some of these, like Black Rabbit Hall and also this Motorcycle Club one, I'm going to move to the top because they're summer. This Ellen Hildebrand probably is as well. So I might have just really increased my summer TBR, to be honest. So thanks so much for joining me, and let me know what it is that you saw me kind of pass up and you were like yelling at the screen, no, you should have grabbed that. I always love to know what people are like, you should have gotten that. There was one recently, I think it's One for the Crow, One for the Blackbird, that I left in a Little Free Library, and everybody was like, that was a mistake. So I did find it on Thrift Books, and I think I used a reward credit, so it was free. So maybe it kind of evens out, book math. But I do like to know, what have I made a mistake on. And then let me know of the ones that I did bring home, which ones you would kind of move to the top of the list. I love to hear that as well. So as always, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.